Alright guys and gals, welcome to my video on that, a window unit. This is not a how-to video. This is not a video on why I think you should use a window unit. This is not a video on why I think you should not use a window unit. This is just a video on why I chose to use a window unit in my mini toy hauler cargo trailer conversion to get my motorcycle to mountains and sleep a little bit more comfortable. So I've got some compromises in this system, and I've got a lot of things I like about this system. So if you guys are even remotely interested in that, stay tuned. If you're already bored, go find something else on YouTube to watch. There is a ton of shit on YouTube to watch. Alright, I almost forgot to tell you guys, this is going to be a series of videos on my trailer build here. This is a 6x12 trailer that I'm building into a mini toy hauler to take my motorcycle to the mountains more often. And so if you're interested in the build from start to finish, this is the first, or I guess technically second video in the series. Stay tuned. Alright, so I made a list so I can try and stay on track. See that? It's a real freaking list. I don't normally do that. I decided to do a list because I got a really bad habit about just like drifting with my mouth. So what I'm going to do is go over compromises first. The things that I have found that are compromises. Now I have built this system over the last week or so. I knew it would have some compromises. I didn't know exactly how extreme the compromises would be, but I've done some testing, and they're not that bad. At least not, again, for how I'm going to use the trailer. So I'm going to go over them a little bit, try to be quick, one at a time. Compromise number one, AC on the floor. Now, everybody knows cold air falls, hot air rises. Maybe not everybody, but I mean, most people. So, when I first fired this system up, and I will show you a little bit about how I built all of this if you're already curious. And I got the system functioning. Yes, of course. I knew this going into it, that the AC system being down low would have a compromise of, well, cold air falls. It makes more sense to have this up here because, again, cold air falls, hot air rises. So it should suck up the hot air in the return, blow back out cold air. I put it on the floor for various reasons, which I will try to remember to touch base on later in the video. So yes, when you first walked in here, when this was functioning, I had a lot of cold air on the floor at low level, and about mid-height, of course, you could feel the temperature change. Now, the easiest way to cure that problem is a fan. I've seen other people mention that. They didn't like their AC being low because they had to run a fan. Other people thought it worked freaking great. I'll tell you, it works good as long as you run a fan. Now, part of the solution to that compromise is a fan, which I was actually planning on using anyway, because I am going to build some shelving up there, and I like fans because I like moving air, and I am going to have a fan up here. That's just part of my original build. So, does that cure most of the issue with cold air being on the floor? In my case, it does. I've been testing with a fan, and it's still a compromise, but the fan is the solution to the problem, which I was planning on including in my build anyway. So that's compromise number one. Can you live with that? That's up to you. All right, I'm going to try and make this a little quicker. Number two. Well, future servicing. If you can't see yet, this is pretty well built in. Yes, I can get it out, but it's going to take a razor knife and some work. So, future servicing, trying to remove the unit with this duct system that I built is not going to be the easiest thing to service in the future, as far as me removing the unit for whatever reason. That's a pretty good con. That's a pretty good compromise that I was willing to make to do this duct system that I built around a window unit in the trailer. Now, one of my solutions to that compromise is that as I build my cabinetry around this, I am going to build my cabinetry with that in mind. I need to be able to, let's say 4 or 5 years from now, I have to remove this unit. I need to be able to do it or build my cabinetry in a way that I can, without it being too big of a deal or without destroying my cabinetry, I can disassemble some cabinetry in a matter of minutes and then gain access to all of this so that I can remove the unit. That is a big compromise that I was willing to make. It's also one of the reasons why I chose this particular unit, so that hopefully I wouldn't have to do that anytime soon. That is a compromise that I was willing to make. Will I have to pull all of my cabinetry apart in the near future? I hope not, because I went with a really simple mechanical unit, no digital controls, no nothing, so that hopefully this unit would run a very long time without me having to disassemble my cabinetry. So again, that's a compromise that I was willing to make with this system. Another thing that I found with my testing over the last few days in 95-degree heat and extremely humid conditions is that I've got to have the trailer level. I have got to have it level. I discovered that was critically important to draining the condensation out of the unit. Now, I have enough slope on the unit. It's no big deal. I read the instructions, which most everything comes with. If it doesn't come with it, you can look it up online. But this unit does have to have some slope. It has some built-in slope naturally, which is actually enough for most conditions. What I learned was that, well, I've got to have the trailer level side to side, that way. So my trailer was down on the entry door side by 3 or 4 inches. The ground is sloped where the trailer is sitting. Now, I was level front to back, but not level side to side. I left the drain plug in the unit because, well, that's what the instructions said to do, that it wasn't necessary to remove the drain plug for extra condensation. That it should be able to, evaporate its own condensation without any assistance. What it doesn't take into consideration is the unit being unlevel side to side. So because I had the trailer unlevel side to side, it was down on this side, I got some pooling of water on the inside on my floor. It took 2 days for that to show up. Once I saw it, I realized what it was from. Just because the trailer wasn't level, it's an easy fix. You have to level your trailer. I also removed the rubber drain plug, which I don't have here. It's over there somewhere. I did remove the rubber drain plug. And there's a compromise in that as well. So I removed the drain plug. The drain is actually on that side of the unit. And because of that, it's even more important to make sure that this side of the trailer is level, or if you were going to make it unlevel, this side needs to be a hair high. So is that really a compromise, or is that just I have to pay attention to the conditions of the trailer when I want to use this when it's really hot and humid outside? I don't know, but I'm going to throw that on the compromise list. You got to make sure the trailer is level, or at least I have to make sure this trailer is level for this to drain properly. The compromise to me pulling that rubber plug, well, there's not as much water built up inside the pan And the unit needs that little bit of water built up in the pan to splash on the condenser to help with evaporation to make the cooling more efficient. Did I notice a real difference in cooling capability of the unit? Not really. I could tell there was less water splashing up on the condensing unit because you could hear it. I did test the output air basically, and intake air. I've been constantly checking that, and I noticed a few degree reduction in the temperature change, but I can't say that's directly related to me pulling that rubber plug out of the drain pan. That is a compromise, but it's easily fixed by just making sure the trailer is level. Something to be aware of. Just thought I'd throw it out there that I discovered accidentally in my testing. All right, under the floor airflow. I hope y'all can see this if you're even still here and interested in this. This is the first part of the video where I'm trying to show you a little bit about what I have built here. Now this was also a compromise. I knew this would be a compromise. I have two different systems here. I have an intake system and an exhaust system. I'm going to show you a little bit more about this in a couple of shots that I took while I was building this. It's not a lot, but it'll give you an idea. So this, I nicknamed the hat, has two holes in the floor that take air in from below the trailer and circulates inside here all the way around. So that is the intake air coming into the condensing unit. It goes out. This is separate. This is my exhaust side. It goes out there, so the hot air goes out. So one of the reasons why some people said this might not work or wouldn't work is because you got hot air going out. You got cooler outside air coming in. Normally this section of the unit is hanging outside of a house window. So some people told me this system would not work because, well, I'm going to be sucking the hot air that's going out right back up in the intake. Now, I did have concerns with that. I didn't know if it would really be a big deal or not. Well, it is a compromise that I was willing to take to see what would happen. Well, it's not a big deal. Now, I've done a lot of checking with a temp gun, checking the exhaust air, checking the outside air temperature, checking the inside air temperature, and this does pull up a little bit of exhaust air. It's only 2 to 3 degrees of this heat that gets pulled back up into here. Now, one reason why I think it's so low is my trailer's design, because right in here, there's a beam, a 2x4 beam. It's a cross brace, floor brace. Kind of sort of acts like a baffle that is separating the heat from the intake, or the exhaust from the intake, I should say. I was willing to take that compromise. The compromise is it does pull a little bit of the exhaust heat, but it's only 2 to 3 degrees. It does not appear to make any difference whatsoever in the efficiency of this unit being able to, well, make ice cold freaking air, because it does. So I also throw that into the compromise because you do have the possibility of taking some of that exhaust air, that hot exhaust air, back into the intakes to help cool the condensers. So yeah, compromise? I don't know. Maybe that depends on your trailer. For me, I was willing to take a chance with it. The chance paid off. The system works. My next con, or not con, I should say, what did we call this? Compromises, would be the amount of fab work that it took to make this. Now for me, I don't know, not a big deal. I have fun making stuff like this, so for me it's really not a compromise. But for some people, it might be. But compared to what I was going to build to put that unit up here, yeah, that was going to be a compromise if you don't like building stuff. So, compromise, maybe for some people. For me, not a compromise. But I still threw it on the compromise list. All right, now on to the fun stuff. The pros. The pros of why I decided to do this type of install for my trailer. Number one, well, there's no holes in the roof. There's no holes in the walls. I really like no holes in the roof and no holes on the walls. I did not want to cut any type of vents in the exterior walls up here, up there. I did not want to put big holes in the roof. I did not want to have to build some sort of structural framework to hold an RV style unit on the roof. I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to screw up the original integrity of the trailer. I mean, think about it for resale in the future. How many people really want to buy a nice looking trailer that's had a giant square freaking hole cut out the side of it? I just didn't want to do that. I didn't have a problem with cutting 3 holes in the floor. And if for some reason I change my mind 3 weeks from now and decide I scrap this whole setup right here, all I got to do is cut 3 little squares of wood and put them back in there and build my cabinetry. Nobody will ever even know it was done. That's a big freaking pro for me. It was like a really big deal. For me, no brainer. That's a massive pro, like big time. Next on the list, no major structural work. I did not have to build any massive framework or complicated, well, anything to do that. Nothing up there. Well, nothing right there, nothing over there, nothing over there. Just a little frame that unit sits on. Very simple, uncomplicated. I like it. All right, weight. That's my next pro to this. This thing's not heavy. I don't want to add a lot of weight to my trailer build. That unit, I like to look back in my notes. I'm actually keeping track of every single pound of everything that goes in this trailer. That's a pretty lightweight unit. I think it was like, if memory serves me correctly, 30 or 40 pounds, something like that. Easy to pick up. I like the lightweight. RV roof units that I've messed with in the past were heavy as shit. I mean, like, I used a tractor to put the last one up on the roof of an RV that I messed with because it was too freaking heavy. I couldn't get it up there any other way. I didn't want weight up high. I like low weight. I guess I get that from riding motorcycles, but I want to try to keep weight low. I feel like the trailer will handle better, pull better, and again, you don't have to have the structural integrity of some heavy-duty framework to hold, well, that. Pretty simple. Low weight. Preserving the exterior. I know I've already touched base on this, but that is a big pro to me. There are no holes in those walls. That's a big pro as to why I went with that window unit, getting its intake air and exhaust air through the floor. No freaking holes, preserving the exterior of the trailer. All right, another pro to going with this type of unit. Well, it's simple and it's cheap. I paid $160 something for this unit. Again, not the biggest reason I went with it, but I wanted a simple, mechanical controlled, no digital anything to get interrupted by, power surges, anything like that. It's a super simple unit, all contained. There's no parts outside, parts inside, something on the roof, whatever. Everything is right here. It's super simple, low cost. I can get a replacement from Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, True Value. Anybody has these things. It's super simple, easy to get, easy to replace in the future. That, well, let's see. Yeah, it's a pretty big pro to me. All right, another pro for me to this design, I guess you could call it, is the unit itself is protected from the weather. I can't talk. The unit itself is protected from the weather. There's nothing hanging outside like it would be, say, in a house window. Half the unit's hanging outside. It's exposed to the sunlight, the weather. In here, it's not. So for me, this is another pro. The unit is protected from, well, the exterior elements. So will it live longer? I guess time will tell on that one. We'll find out. Another reason I chose this style of setup is because I didn't want a big unit. This is not a big trailer. I don't need a 9,000, 13,000, whatever BTU unit to cool this small of a trailer. A 5,000 unit, which is what this is, or a 6,000, I think is more than sufficient for this area. It's not a lot of space, and I'm not going out in the desert camping in 5,000 degree temperatures. So yeah, I could size the unit for my needs. Didn't have to go overkill. I was also able to choose a very simple, let me get you in here a little bit so you can see this. An extraordinarily simple unit. Mechanical control, 5,000 BTU. Let's flip you around. Little GE unit I got from Lowe's. I want it simple, mechanical, no digital anything. Let me get you set back up there. So I could choose a simple unit. You know, a reason I wanted a simple mechanical unit is for something like, well, power surges in campgrounds. Maybe I want to run this thing off of a generator, which is not real clean power. A mechanical unit, well, it's not really affected by that. A digital unit, some of them you got to shut them down and restart every time you get a little glitch in the power. So that's another major pro to me. Simplicity and proper size. All right, let me wrap this up, and then I'll include a few little short videos on when I was making this towards the end of the video, if you're still here. The biggest pro to this system is that it works. There was quite a few people that told me it would not work, that it wouldn't work being down here low. It does have its compromises being low, that this ductwork system would not work because it's going to recirculate the hot exhaust air back into the intake. Well, it works. It's chilly in here right now. It's been 95, 96 degrees for the last few days. The trailer has virtually no insulation except for the tiny little bit of white styrofoam board I threw in the ceiling about a day ago. And it works. In 95 degree temperatures, it's sufficient for me. I'm not camping in 95 degree temperatures. This has been getting tested at the upper end of, I don't want to say it's extreme conditions, but it's extreme for my camping. I usually take the bike to the mountains in the spring and the fall when the temps are in the upper 80s to the low 40s down to freezing. So having a super big air conditioning system for me, probably not really necessary. I've been coming out here in the mornings before going to work, and it's been like 68 degrees in here. It's cold enough. So y'all stay tuned. Maybe some of my pros and cons, my compromises, maybe it'll help you make a decision. This works for me. I'm happy with it. Y'all let me know what you guys decided to do. And stay tuned for the little short construction clips at the end. Appreciate you guys. Y'all be good. All right, boys and girls, I'm not exactly sure when this particular clip is going to get inserted into the air conditioning video, but this is what I'm working on. All right, so I have decided to do the air conditioner on the floor in the Vinos. All right, what I've done is build a frame for the unit to sit on and kind of lock it in place. It's not done yet, but it's a starting point. All right, so my plan is unit sitting here. I'm going to build an air box that has intakes that come in the floor here on both sides. This box is going to come up, over, and of course down the other side. Another intake over here. This is going to be my source of intake air coming into the unit to cool the condensers. All right, and then on the back side, I don't know how well y'all can see this, but on the back side, of course, you're going to have your hot exhaust air coming out. I'm going to build a separate air box that's going to come out and down, and another basically exhaust hole in the floor. This way I don't have to have any holes in the walls of the trailer, and my intake and exhausting air is going to be through the floor. All right, a few minutes worth of work this afternoon on the AC setup. It is stinking hot out here, and I've got the AC running in the door right there just to help out a little bit. So you can see the framework that I think I may have showed you in another video, or part of the video. I've got the hole cut. This is going to be the exhaust side, you know, the hot air coming out of the condenser. This is what I put together for basically a piece of ductwork. All right, that's going to go on there kind of like that, which is going to butt up against the back side of the unit, funnel the hot air out and down through the bottom of the trailer. And I've already tested this a little bit the other day, and it seemed to work extraordinarily well. So this is nothing but just foam board, taped with foil tape. I did add a gusset in here, and it kind of like, you know, gives it a little bit of curve back here. Apologies for the shaky video. Okay, this is probably going to be difficult for me to show, but there's just another angle of the hole. This is, of course, the back side of the unit. I decided, since I had some flashing out, because I just pulled about a 6-inch tree out of my roof and used some flashing to just patch the hole for the moment, that while I had this stuff out, I might as well run some flashing around this edge. So since I'm going to have, you know, possible condensation coming out of the back of the unit and dripping off the back side, I figured why not, just for shits and giggles, run some flashing here and around this edge so that whatever condensation comes out of the back of the unit will, you know, it'll just splash and go out without getting on any wood. Whatever trickles out will just hit the foam board, hit the foil tape and the flashing, and just drip right on out the back of the trailer or bottom of the trailer. So, yeah, that's kind of my idea for the moment. One quick shot of a portion of it. All right, it's the next morning. Out here tinkering a little bit on this. I want to get this actually functioning so I can test it today. It's an excellent weekend for testing because I'm going to be mid-90s this weekend, and I really want to see what this system can do. If I need to improve it, if it's adequate. Like I said, these temperatures are going to be nice and hot. There's no insulation in the trailer, so if it can even remotely keep up, I'm going to be pretty happy. So this is what I built last night. This is what I have nicknamed the hat. So it's basically an air box, air intake box, a plenum, whatever you want to call it. I got this idea from somebody else I saw on YouTube. The gentleman was building a wooden box to drop over his same type of air conditioner, and in a little camper he was doing. And I thought it was a pretty good idea. He had the same concept, air intake through the floor coming up and surrounding the intakes to go into the condenser. So, like I said, I put this together last night. It's basically just going to slide right down on top of the unit like that. It's going to pull the air in from under the trailer, circulate through, out the back. And that's it. Now, I do have a few concerns with the possibility of hot exhaust air recirculating back up into the intakes But that's just something I'm going to have to shoot with a temp gun and see if it's even a problem at all. I might have a little natural help from the trailer with that because I've got the floor beams running across, and I actually have a 2x4 beam in between the intake and the exhaust. Plus, I have the A-frame of the trailer, and it's kind of a natural barrier, I guess, a baffle system already in place from the trailer. If I get too much hot exhaust air recirculating back up, I think all I'm going to do is go under the trailer. Same thing, make a baffle. Not really a baffle, I guess another intake chute. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We'll make another air feed and just under the trailer have the feed come back a little bit further. So instead of it pulling in air from here and here, it'll pull air from a little further back, but still from under the trailer. So as you can see here, this is just your regular average 6x12 V-nose trailer. Nothing special, just regular trailer. That's what this air conditioner is going to cool off. Or is cooling off, I should say. Now, one thing that was mentioned to me was, had a few people tell me this system would not work. And they said it wouldn't work because these intakes right here would be sucking the hot air from there back around and into there. Now, I had my concerns about that also. But one thing I noticed is this beam separation between there and there seems to help with that. Now, do I get any hot air from here back around to here? I do a tiny little bit, but I mean, I'm talking about 2 to 3 degrees. I've been consistently shooting this intake, exhaust, and exterior temperatures as comparison, and I get 2 to 3 degree increase back up into the intakes. But it's not enough to affect the performance of the unit, obviously, because this damn thing just works. And yes, those big holes in the bottom of the trailer, I am going to make some sort of screen, critter guard, bug stopper, something to put over the intake and exhaust holes to help reduce the opportunity of critters and bugs making homes up inside there. I think that's probably kind of important. 54 degrees coming out of that thing. I'd say it works. All right. That sucks. That could be a good find.